not huge sales. They had a couple people, probably a lot of family. They came back and did it night 2. Night 3, the editor for Eater LA showed up.
No way.
He got the last of the chicken that they had, but he'd been looking for a brick and mortar. He didn't realize it was in the parking lot. And the article came out the next day, and it was East Hollywood late night chicken spot might just blow your mind. And the next day, the line was down the block. They were rolling every dollar they got right back into buying products.
So a line shows up, and probably it's like a little bit like, what do we do now?
Yeah, there was that moment where it was like, oh, and we're going to need a bigger boat, right? We're going to need more chicken. We're going to...
Welcome back to the Dirt Dog Pod. Today, we've got a wonderful guest. He's attached to one of the hottest brands that's growing in the United States these days and elsewhere, for that matter. Thanks, Dannon Shiff, Senior VP of Real Estate at Dave's Hot Chicken, for joining me at the Dirt Dog Pod.
Great to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
We have gotten to know each other a little bit over the last few years, and when you first told me you were working at Dave's, I was like, wait, is that the big rubber chicken thing that squeaks? And I think that's really the only way I knew you.
Probably. I used to carry it. I still actually do carry it in my backpack to most of the ICSC events. And, it's, we like to talk about it as the ugliest logo in fast food and fast casual restaurants. But it's so endearing that, we're kind of known for it. We also can't get rid of it because Armand, one of our founders, has it tattooed in multiple places on his body.
No way.
So we really can't get rid of Dave the chicken as the logo.
Where did it come from?
A swap meet.
Okay.
It's a dog toy.
And did like Armando see it and he's like, oh, that's it?
Yeah, they were, as I understand the story, they were walking through and somebody found it and said this should be, the logo. It would just be a part of the brand, a part of the logo. And it's kind of stuck. It's Dave the chicken, also with Dave the chef. So we have, Dave is got dual roles within the brand.
That is unbelievable. Somebody somehow it was your Vegas broker, I think, sent us one 3 years ago or something like that. And my house still has a lot of young children. And I am not going to tell you, my wife possibly maliciously destroyed our Dave within maybe a month of it arriving at our house.
Sounds right. I may or may not have shared some replica Daves with friends to give to their kids just to annoy them. Yeah. So it's a great party favor.
It was one of those like weekday mornings, kids getting ready for school. It's like 6:30 a.m., which is, before the hour of when Ms. Hatch was interested in being up at that time. And I think the chicken was going off, and that was it. It met its maker on that day.
Yeah. So it's okay.
It was a good run.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. So you're sitting here today, and you've got how many stores open?
272 is the current count.
Amazing. And when did you join the brand? How long ago?
I joined, it'll be 4 years next month. Okay. So March of 2021. Yeah. We had 9 restaurants in Southern California and Toronto. Yeah. And, it's been a wild ride to the 270 plus that we're at today.
That's tremendous growth. I think many people might go their whole real estate careers and never open 263 restaurants.
It's crazy to think, in 4 short years to have hit that exponential level. Yeah. And to do it with, phenomenal franchisees and an amazing team that it's almost felt just, like it keeps going. 4 years feels like 8 years. It's just been such a great ride.
So of the 272, you are starting to do some international expansion as well.
Yeah, we have 9 restaurants in the Middle East. And late last year, we opened our first restaurant in central London. So we've got restaurants in the UK, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, which is just, it's crazy to see the brand grow to these new markets and to be received as well as it has been here in the States as well.
I was going to say, so how does that go when you make the decision? And I know you guys are franchise based, right?
Right.
How many are any corporate stores?
We have 5 corporate restaurants in Los Angeles, where we're based, but 98% of our growth is franchise based.
So the growth plan is all franchise.
Planned growth plan is to be franchised.
So you decide to go into the Middle East. So obviously there's a franchisee that says, look, I love Dave's. Right?
Yeah.
Is that where it starts?
Somebody found the brand, fell in love with it, and approached us. And that's really how, both of our, our UK brand and the Middle East groups both found us and approached us. And it's a difficult decision to go overseas. When we signed the Middle East group, we were under 100 units. So to think about expanding into a foreign country, not only, is the brand going to translate, but supply chain, hiring, construction, design, how does that all translate to a foreign market? It's really a Herculean effort by both the franchisee and the franchisor to say, here we go.
Staffing. I just think the cultural differences. I mean, just so many things that come into play with it.
Yeah. I think that's the great thing about just the franchisees that we've attracted is they're all amazing groups. They're all multi-unit operators of other brands. That's really the entry level. Is we're not we're looking to do this the right way with people who have done it before, and that's really been a big piece of fueling the growth.
So typical. Let's go into a typical Dave's franchisee. So if I'm a dentist and I've got a couple $100,000 extra bucks and I'm looking for a side hustle, Dave's may not be the best fit for me.
Really not the best fit. Okay. Our franchisees are multi-unit operators of amazing brands. And they all live and operate in the markets that they're running Dave's in. So we've got local operators who know how to develop sites. They know how to hire. They know how to order. They know how to train. We're going to teach them the Dave's system and the Dave's culture, but we don't have to teach the restaurant industry. And the restaurant industry is a great place to get started, but not all brands. And so I think that's really helped us grow at the pace that we're doing it because our franchisees have done it before. And so this is really, taking the brand and bringing it to a new market and saying, go.
What do you do you typically, because I know some of the franchisors have exclusives, right? For example, like if you're a Wendy's franchisee, I don't think you can be Dave's, can you? Do they have a chicken conflict typically?
It's going to depend on the brand. It's going to depend on the other restrictions.
Yeah.
We do have some people who have experience in chicken. Yes. I know there are brands where you can't be a franchisee of more than one brand. So that's obviously something we weigh into as well. But no, I think the other franchisors that these guys are, these franchisees are associated with are excited about it because, that's attracted other franchisees.
Sure.
So we've a lot of actually probably most of our intake and most of our franchise development and growth with franchisees has been through the other brand conferences or the other brand meetings. And they hear about peers that are getting into Dave's and starting to think about, I want to grow as well. And they hear great things and they give us a call. And it's been phenomenal in that regard because we're getting, the cream of the crop from some of these other amazing brands. So,
rewind the clock to a couple of years ago when I met you, and we first time I met you was at the event we had in Salt Lake City. They had Grant Gittinger put together for us. And which was fun. And then right after that, like last summer I was in Boston and we were doing one of those duck boat tours.
Yeah.
And we're driving through downtown Boston. I look over, I'm like, oh, there you go. There's a Dave's. How about that? On the route. And then like a month later, I'm in, I can't remember. I was somewhere in Texas. Oh, there's a Dave's.
Yeah.
And then another month later, I'm like somewhere in the Midwest, Ohio or something. There's a Dave's. Like all of a sudden, it was just like y'all were just like everywhere in the whole country.
Yeah. I think we're in 34 or 35 states now. There's a handful that are still going to open this year.
Yeah.
That are going to be new markets for us. But we've been fortunate to find franchisees in almost every metropolitan area across the country and have been able to start to develop or continue developing, from Seattle to Miami and New Hampshire to San Diego and everywhere in between.
So wild. So I went to the Restaurant Finance and Development Conference in November and spoke to all kinds of amazing retailers. And I wasn't there shopping for a franchise. I was there primarily, figuring out how I can help the franchisees grow.
Sure.
There's so many concepts though. Why do you think Dave's has been such an attractive commodity for the franchisees?
I think it's a combination of first a phenomenal product. It all starts with the food. And I really, I think once interested parties or customers try our food, that's really where they start to fall in love with the brand. But then I think you look at, we've got an incredibly experienced leadership team at the franchise office. And I think that it starts there, is that the experience level of the team, we've done it before with other brands. We've grown successfully with other brands, and we've got the systems in place to help the franchisees grow. It's, fast casual dining is just such an explosive segment. There's opportunity. And I think that really has been exciting for a lot of people who are in sandwiches, or they're in coffee or donuts, or, other categories, that chickens, or burgers. This is a new, category, or a different category for them to play in, but still falls into their wheelhouse of the operational side of things that they know. And I think that makes it, a really attractive proposition. It's a phenomenal brand from a growth perspective. So the story is great. From, the parking lot to today, to hear where we've been and how we've grown. I think people really have been attracted to it. And once they get, talking to us and hear more about it, they get really excited.
Let's rewind back to the parking lot.
Really rewind back.
Yeah, let's go to the beginning. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How did this whole thing come together? This is pre-tattoo, by the way, right?
Arma probably had a few tattoos, but he didn't have the Dave's tattoo at that point.
Okay. All right.
No, this is three friends that, met in elementary school and high school, who wanted to do right by their parents. They wanted to support their families. And they were playing in Tommy's family's kitchen, or Armand's family's kitchen, or Dave's family's kitchen, just trying to figure out chicken. They loved In-N-Out, so they wanted something simple, and they just started playing with it. Hot chicken was growing, especially in LA, and starting to emerge as a segment of the chicken category. And Tommy's family had a flower shop across the street in Thai Town in East Hollywood, and he negotiated a deal with the parking lot owner for a single space. And, over time they were just kind of playing with it. And one night Tommy said, we're doing it tomorrow. We're not ready. And they popped up. And I think as the story goes, they did $30 or $40 in sales the first night.
What does that look like? They
had a pop-up tent, some picnic tables, a tabletop fryer, and, an A-frame easel out on the sidewalk.
Maybe a generator or something?
Maybe.
Yeah.
They were really bootstrapping this. It started with $900, their entire life savings.
And how old are they?
They're probably right around 30 right now.
Okay. I'm sorry. How old were they at the time?
So this would have been 2017. So roll back 7 years. Yeah. 23, 24 years old. Young guys. And, that first night, not huge sales. They had a couple people, probably a lot of family. They came back and did it night 2. Night 3, the editor for Eater LA showed up.
No way.
And they had been kind of priming him. They've been tagging him in Instagram posts, and they've been kind of working to get him there. And
isn't that the biggest benefit of somebody looking to start a new concept today? It's just how available humans like that
are. It's crazy. Yeah. And he showed up on night 3. He got the last of the chicken that they had, but he'd been looking for a brick and mortar. He didn't realize it was in the parking lot. And the article came out the next day, and it was East Hollywood late night chicken spot might just blow your mind. And the next day, the line was down the block. And that really started this whole thing.
So working capital started at $900.
$900.
So by day 3, best case scenario, we might have been to $1,800 or something.
They were rolling every dollar they got right back into buying products.
So a line shows up, and probably it's a little bit like, what do we do now?
Yeah. There was that moment where it was like, oh, and we're going to need a bigger boat, right? We're going to need more chicken. We're going to need, and that's what kicked it off. And over time, people, the line got longer, and they figured out better processes. Thankfully, Dave worked in Thomas Keller's kitchen in LA. He went to the Culinary Institute, so he was the culinary minds. Armand is the marketing behind this, and they just kept pumping it out, and it attracted some of our leadership team and our investors today. And, that's how the partnership was formed. And, 2018, they opened their first brick and mortar. Tommy's brother, Gary. So 6 months.
So 6 months. So 6 months they were in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And then where was the brick and mortar?
Brick and mortar's still there on Western Avenue. It's around the corner and down the street.
Okay.
On Western Avenue.
I was going to say, for every single investment broker listening to this episode, you have one task. Go find out if the strip mall can be purchased where the original thing was open and call Dannon, because honestly, how do they not buy? They got to buy that. I mean, the sentimental value.
The founders actually had their office in the back. And so 6 months, they opened their first brick and mortar. The line continued at the brick and mortar. Mm-hmm. That's my first experience, was standing in that line with all of those fans at Restaurant One when I was first introduced to the brand. And you could just feel that excitement. You could feel that energy, and people were buzzing and talking about it. And there's just something special about it. It's a simple menu. It's craveable food. You can spice it your own way. So there's a little bit of something for everybody. If you don't want to blow your head off with Reaper, mm-hmm. you don't have to. So it just, and the story and the marketing and the irreverency of the design and the interior of each of the restaurants just kind of speaks to, these fun-loving guys who, really just wanted to, support their family and do right. And it's just such the American dream story. And it's such a blast to be a part of, because you get to tell that story and you get to share what they've built and spread it to other communities and do it through other people who are growing for their own families. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's amazing. So the first brick and mortar opens 6 months into the process. And really, 2017 to now has really not been that long, right, to hit that growth spurt.
No, if you fast forward a little bit further, December of 2020, mm-hmm. we had 7 restaurants, all in Southern California.
And all corporately owned?
No, all either founder owned or our first franchisee in San Diego.
Okay.
So it was really, we were a regional brand.
Yeah.
And it took off, in 2020 and 2021 through the pandemic.
And what do you think it was that caused it to take off out of the regional concept?
I think it was a combination of the right time for chicken. Mm-hmm. And chicken was really having its moment through the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then a few influential franchisees got involved. And that snowball effect of hearing about certain franchisees that are getting involved, and then you get the press behind that, and then the openings. Yeah. And it really just, took off from there, where people were coming to us and great people were coming to us wanting to expand into markets that, from the East Coast to the West Coast, Canada, the Middle East, it's been, a lot of intake from a lot of interested parties.
As you jumped out of California, did you move into Nevada next? Was that the next move?
First out of California restaurant was actually in Toronto.
There's
in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah. We couldn't, our team couldn't get in. Yeah. So we did training over Zoom.
Yes.
For the franchisees' first few restaurants up there.
Amazing.
No, our first restaurants domestically that were outside of California were in Dallas, Denver, and Chicago, and then Detroit.
What was Dave's mental
and Portland? Sorry, can't forget Portland.
Since Dave was the chef,
yeah,
more or less. What was Dave's mental health status while he was trying to Zoom teach people how to cook his recipe? That had to be difficult.
I have to give a shout out to, our operations team.
Yeah.
They've built a phenomenal training program that is manageable, not easy.
Yes.
But it's manageable. It's a simple menu. I can't say, doing it on Zoom is something we, would ever want to do again, but I guess the technology allowed us that opportunity. We probably would have been doing it over the phone.
My brain is resetting back to 14-year-old version of me.
Yeah.
And my dad got himself involved in Yoshi's Japanese Grill, which is a Phoenix concept. And they ended up opening 3 of them up here. And Yoshi himself came up here and taught me how to, roll the sushi, taught me how to make the teriyaki sauce. And I'm just trying to imagine me learning any of that through Zoom, right?
Yeah.
And just what a nightmare that must have been.
Well, and a lot of the brand is the culture. A lot of the brand is through our training program.
Yeah.
And to be able to impart that over Zoom is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But no, we continue to support our franchisees with, training teams for these restaurants, and we drop 5, 6, 7 people into these restaurants and, go at it hard to get them ready for what is hopefully going to be a wild ride.
Okay. So I was diagnosed with celiac in 2015. So I can't, no gluten. Right?
Okay.
And so just walk me through for just a minute, like this whole hot chicken world and chicken world.
Right.
Because from my perspective, I can't eat any of it. And so I'm envious, right? Every once in a while in like some fun place like Nashville, you'll find somebody that serves gluten-free fried chicken,
Sure.
which is heaven on earth, right? It's amazing. But you have the problem of the breading and then also the fryer.
Yeah.
And so, so help me understand, like who are your peers and competitors? And then who is a chicken concept, but maybe not quite exactly what you do?
So I think you have different levels of chicken, and it's a wide spectrum. You've got your older, traditional Southern fried bucket chicken, whole bird concepts of, like the KFCs and the Popeyes of the world.
Right.
You've got Chick-fil-A, obviously, can't, ignore them in the chicken space, but they've got fried, they've got grilled.
Yeah.
You've got your tender concepts. And then you've got this other spectrum of, Nashville Hot is a part of that. But then you've got, peri peri, Mozambique, Portuguese style chicken. You've got your rotisserie, like your Boston Markets and those brands of yesteryear. So chicken's a wide spectrum. We found a niche of flavor and heat and uniqueness where Nashville style kind of fits in, still competing in chicken, but not a direct competitor to a lot of the other concepts that are out there doing chicken. I think chicken is the vehicle for the flavoring or for the type of product that you're offering, whether it's whole bird, rotisserie, spicy, not spicy, tenders. There's an opportunity for a lot of different uses of chicken. It takes to flavor really well, so you can do a lot of different things with it. And I think that's maybe the differentiation between chicken and a lot of other food products is a burger's a burger. You can put a lot on top of it, but it's still a piece of beef. Chicken you can do a lot with because it's malleable to be flavored. And I think that's why you see so many different uses of chicken across the whole spectrum of the product, whether it's fast food, fast casual, or even to some of the full service brands.
It's always amazing to me when you're working on a shopping center or like a multi-pad deal, and you're working through exclusive uses. And sometimes these exclusive uses come in and you're just kind of like, do you really think that you're a competitor to that use? Like, it's just kind of an interesting take. Cause like, I'm just a typical consumer and, on top of being a single tenant developer, but like, it's just pretty fascinating to me. So in theory, a Dave's could sit next to a Chick and both units could be doing healthy volumes.
We have units that are nearby or across the street from a Chick, and we found that can be successful. I think competition is healthy.
Yeah.
I think whether it's in the shopping center or across the street, there's an element of I'm going to find my way into the trade area one way or the other. Whether it's in that shopping center or I'm going to go up the street, I'm going to go across the street, around the corner, whatever it might be. So I think that there's an element of you got to protect your investment as a franchisee, and from the franchisor's perspective, we want happy franchisees in that regard. But healthy competition is healthy. The quality brands are going to stand the test of time.
Yeah. 263 stores open.
272.
263 that you've helped open.
We've been around.
Have opened since you've been there.
Yeah.
You seen all of those?
I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah.
We're pretty hands-on with our real estate program.
Yeah.
So my team is out in the field pretty much every week, and we see everything before it's executed.
So franchisor holds real estate approval.
Franchisor holds review and approval. We trust our franchisees. Mm-hmm. They're really, they're in the market. They know their trade areas. We're there to help and guide and support them. And that's really a big piece of why we see everything. We just want to make sure that we're doing right for them. We can support them. Some of our franchisees maybe don't have the strongest development in real estate backgrounds. So we can provide our expertise and knowledge on that Some of them, are multi-tenant builders. They've developed their own shopping centers for their brands, or they've done single tenant development. And those, we're there to guide if they need our help. But if they don't, we're there to, be a support tool as it comes along. Really thinking about the strategy of entering the markets and how do we want to build out and what are our thoughts about the right place to go versus, maybe that's not the right trade area today, but maybe that's an infill down the road. We're there at that strategic level as well, really from day one when franchisees sign on.
So you were describing your schedule to me yesterday where you landed in one market and then changed the business plan and decided to drive 4 more markets.
Yeah.
Right. To see what looked good with the franchisee.
Exactly.
So here you are, you're in Whereversville, USA.
Uh-huh.
How do you determine if that's a good site? What are characteristics you're looking for?
It's boots on the ground, but it's also, thinking about, population density, what brands are in the market. So what does our competitive set look like, but also what does our potential co-tenancy look like? It's getting an understanding of the trade area. It's getting an understanding of, the demographics on paper may say one thing, but when you drive the neighborhoods, when you walk through the other, competitive concepts or co-tenants, walking into coffee shops, who's sitting there? What do the cars look like in the parking lot? Are the homes well kept? Or is it maybe a bit of a opportunity area where the homes aren't as well kept? And making some of those determinations, and decisions based on, the eyes on the ground, because a lot of the time the data's delayed. It lags reality.
The analytics.
The analytics,
Yeah.
Whether it's the demographics
Sure.
or the aerials, seeing something on paper or on Google really doesn't show the same as when you're standing there, looking at it with your own eyes.
Is there like 1 or 2 co-tenants where you're like, look, if we can really land next to a Trader Joe's, we know we're going to do well. We're going to rip. Or is there somebody like that out there that you look for?
We've actually been really successful in a lot of different applications. I mean, I think from, Florida and Texas to the Northeast to the Northwest, you just had some different co-tenancy mixes. So we've found that we do really well with daily needs uses. Not a big shocker, but the Targets, the Walmarts, the big national grocers and the big regional grocers. But the other piece to that is, high quality, fast casual co-tenancy. So where are the other like-minded brands? Where are the other people with a similar price point? Mm-hmm. Coffee shops, those types of daily needs uses where they may not know us today, but in their daily path of travel, they're going to see us. And eventually they're going to come in. So they might go to a burrito place one day, they see us under construction, they're going to come in as soon as we open. And we build that excitement and we build that, brand awareness that way. It's still real estate 101. It starts with location. Yeah. Go get great real estate. And, in theory, we should be off to the races on the right foot.
Are there groups that you target? Like, for example, if you could be next to a big university, I would assume that a store or something like that would rip.
Yeah. I mean, we've been in big markets. We're in small markets. We're in college towns. We're in, we're across the street, the street from universities. We're up the street where we can still get the locals. I think one of the things that is special about this brand is that we've been successful in those different places. And it allows us to have a little bit of a runway to test some of those things, and to say, well, this is what it looks like here. And how do we apply that to, this market? Because every market is different. There's not really this blanket, okay, Houston looks like.
Yeah.
Houston's Houston.
Yes.
Boston is Boston. And Portland and Seattle look the same, but really are different. And I think that, getting out in the field with our franchisees and spending that time and building that relationship where we can see the sites and understand each individual trade area and make decisions based on that market and not necessarily try to apply an analog and say A and B look the same, because that hasn't always panned out from any brand I've been a part of. Mm-hmm. You try to make, informed decisions, but boots on the ground are going to really help at the end of the day.
At just under 300 stores, you should have some nice data coming back.
We do.
Some of your existing stores. Are you diving in on a program where you're starting to look at site analysis and projected sales?
We've been tracking things from, store 9 when I started. We've been gathering the demographics. We've been gathering the sales data. We look at it. We started to build a base, but we're growing so rapidly through so many unique markets that there's still some ambiguity in some of that data. Lexington, Kentucky may not give you the right analog to Milwaukee, but the demographics might look the same. But are the site characteristics the same? And so there, we're looking at it. We're working with it. We've got partners in our analytics platforms that are helping us build the database. But as we continue to grow, we're learning more and more about our brand every day. And with every new opening, what's working, what's not working, what types of sites are working, how do end caps versus drive-throughs, our exterior branding and signage, how big of a factor is that to brand awareness and potential sales opportunities versus just open the doors and here they come.
Yeah. It's been an interesting start of the year. I feel like there's like 50 new commercial real estate tech companies that are doing some version of like, we can help you find the best sites. And it's really been kind of fascinating to me. I think it's so easy to say at cocktail parties, like, oh yeah, just look at the cell phone data. Yeah. Right. And then you translate that and then you go show up on site and you're like, boy, that doesn't match anything. Something's off. Right. It's just been fascinating.
It's I don't want to say it's easy to buy the data, but the data is out there to be bought. It's how you interpret it and picking the right analytics partner with the right thought process and history of what's the right way to analyze it. Because I think the data that's out there can be analyzed in different ways. Is it the right information about the shopping center and who's coming to the shopping center versus how do you leverage that mobile data for your individual restaurant? And how do you capture where that customer is going and how do they use the algorithms that they've created for that data to, produce the output? And what's the right output? I think that's where everybody's got their different take on it. I don't know that anybody's right, and I don't know that everybody's not wrong. It's a piece of the data.
So just to restate that a little bit, because I don't actually think we've covered this with any other guests, but to kind of bring John Q. Public up to speed with how stores are selected, is you've got the data from the existing Dave's locations. You've got cell phone data, demographic data, household income data, all kinds of other data points you're looking at for a new prospective trade area. Yeah. And those are all getting funneled in. And then there's an outsourced company that typically works with a retailer like you guys that's then helping to craft a strategy to say, if these characteristics are hit, then the store might project in sales in this range.
Correct. Yeah. It's they can only do so much with the mobile data. So it's finding a partner to share information with and to help craft that model. I don't love the word model, but it's the best way to put it is how do you take that data and apply it to your brand? I can't take the data from another brand, whether it's a massive 1,000 unit concept or a 10 unit concept, and craft it necessarily to Dave's. But we can start to play with our data, how our customer uses us, what sales channel they're using. Is it in person? Is it through our drive-throughs that we have, which we've got about 25% of our stores have a drive-through, or are they getting third party? And how does that data, how do those cell phones track? What are the little bits and pieces? Did they spend enough time in the store for that cell phone to click and connect to the mobile data platform? The third party driver who's in and out of that restaurant in 30 seconds to a minute probably isn't clicking. So then you have to figure out interpreting the data for your in-person customer. And how do you apply that logic to, the ecosystem we've got with delivery now, which is you don't see your customer. You don't know the data of where that order is ultimately going.
But you do get some data back from the third-party delivery companies, right?
We do.
Yeah.
And getting the right data and applying that into the system. We know, that those platforms are ambiguous to some extent, right? They are sales channels. They can go 20 to 30 minutes away, depending on the brand and some of those bits and pieces of their algorithm. to deliver the food.
Yeah.
Well, if you draw a 20 to 30 minute radius around your store, that could be 2 miles in some markets. That can be, 10 to 12 miles away from your restaurant.
Yeah, sure.
Depending on time of day and market that you're in, you can cross parts of North Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota, in 20 minutes. You can be across town. That could be 10 miles away. Mm-hmm. But you can't do that in Boston.
Right.
And so how do those algorithms play into decision making and thinking about, where the customer is getting the food and how to, strategize with the franchisee before they've opened the store, after they've opened the store, and before they've opened or decided on the next location.
How has the third party delivery scene adjusted how you're doing restaurant footprints, the design?
I don't think it's necessarily changed our design. Dave's food fresh out of the kitchen in the restaurant is still the best way to eat it. But we've got to be where our customer wants us to be. So the third party ecosystem isn't going away. But we've had to retool our thinking a little bit of, we've got some stores that are, like I said, drive-through. We've got some stores that are doing the, pre-order pickup window. We've got some stores that have a walk-up window where the customer doesn't have to come into the restaurant. They can walk up to a window outside. The cashier can hand them the food, and they never come into the restaurant. So it's really
so they paid through an app.
They paid through the app. Yeah. They paid online. They're just grabbing the food and going. So that's your delivery drivers or your online orders. So that's been a part of our design as we've grown. But it's changed a bit of our thinking about new market entry. Maybe we aren't going to go as close, as fast, or as quickly in the schedule as we might have done 7 or 10 years ago. We might space out the restaurants and understand how much of that's going to be third party, what percentage of sales is going to come out of each sales channel, and understand, okay, maybe if it's a low percentage third party, we might be able to come a little closer. If it's a high percentage third party, we might want to stay a little bit further away to understand those distances and watch that a little bit more, so we aren't impacting ourselves unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And thinking smartly and logically about the initial market plan. How do we, okay, here's our top 5 trade areas. We really like this one, but let's come back to it down the road after we've opened these other 2. So we know that, we're successful and we can kind of plan for that.
Yeah, I like that strategy. Take a Denver or Salt Lake as an example. You go every 7 to 10 miles, then see how it goes and decide, can you fill in between?
Right. And those markets, we've applied that thought process and that strategy to every market.
Yeah.
From the get-go. We sit down and we market plan the entire market as soon as the franchisee comes into the system.
Yeah.
So we're really starting to think about, okay, what is the right strategy? And then apply the Dave's piece to it and say, okay, we like these nodes, but if we do this one, we're going to skip over this. We're going to go here next, and we'll come back down the road and we'll infill, or we'll decide then if that's, the right thing to do.
Okay. So you've got amazing food because otherwise none of this would be possible.
Exactly.
You quickly had a great leadership team between the trio that was there, and then they've obviously amassed some talented experts because clearly you've scaled efficiently.
Yeah.
You've been able to attract rock star franchisees. You've got the right product at the right time.
Yeah.
You are starting to move what appears from my perspective at all sides, because you got international, you got all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And what does the next 5 years look like for Dave? Like what's next?
There's a little bit of a focus on the next 10 months. What does the rest of the year look like? Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where am I going to wake up tomorrow? Yeah. I think there's a lot of runway for us, both domestically and then abroad. We're really excited about, the one restaurant we have in the UK. So we're really excited about what that's going to present to us as opportunities. There's other international markets that are out there. But we're also going to play with some new things this year. We're going to open our first airport restaurant in Las Vegas later this spring, I believe.
Which terminal?
It's the Delta terminal.
Awesome.
So for the Salt Lake City and Delta fans, we'll be right there.
That's a direct hit in this office.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody here will be happy.
So, we're going to play with some non-traditional. We've got a food truck in LA that goes out to a lot of the big concerts and festivals. So that's going to be an opportunity for us to get our product in front of customers at different places along the way. We're going to play with some non-traditional. We're going to play with some size formats. We're going to still be, open for drive-throughs, but, we're just looking for great real estate. So if it's an end cap with or without a drive-through, if it's, a freestanding single tenant building, our franchisees, some of them are buying their own land and building themselves. Some of them are doing build-to-suits. We're really across the spectrum from almost every different deal type in every different category across, whether it's, again, second-gen leased restaurants, where we've found that to be a really great opportunity for us to grow as fast as we are by not reinventing the wheel, not gutting things down to the studs, to help our franchisees save money, help us get restaurants open quicker.
So former low volume fast food QSRs, that's
low volume or expired leases.
Yeah.
Just time to change out the merchandising. Maybe tired brand or, no more term. We've been really successful in converting a lot of different other concepts and kind of forming them into Dave's. So using the bones of the building, using the restrooms, using the coolers, trying to use the kitchen line where we can, because at the end of the day, it's going to, just help us get open faster. We're not going through the permitting challenges that we're facing across the country still. Pandemic didn't help us. And it's still our biggest challenge to getting restaurants open is getting permits.
And that's just slow moving.
It's slow moving cities. They've outsourced to third parties who don't have any.
Well, outsourcing's faster. I'm kidding. It is, it's amazing.
But it's finding the right partners who know the people. It's finding the right architects. It's finding the right contractors to help us do this. And again, it's a partnership. Across the board, from franchisor to franchisee, all of our vendors, this is a ride for everybody. And we're just trying to go as fast as we can and keep knocking out great looking restaurants.
Well, I think it's an extreme testament to you and your team that you've had that kind of growth over that time period. But you've not just grown by putting a square box in a square hole. You are doing urban locations. You are doing drive-throughs in the burbs, like an old, fast food restaurant.
Yeah.
You are doing new construction with a franchisee that wants to build their own building. The amount of things in different variety of deals that you're looking at is really kind of mind-blowing.
I think it speaks to the flexibility of the brand.
Yeah.
That while we do have a prototype and we do have a model, the willingness to be flexible and to play with that, to play with strategizing with the franchisee. What's their investment criteria? What's their background? Our franchisees that come out of a single tenant fast food mindset may have a different perspective on the P&L and their investment to buying and building or ground leasing and building than a franchisee who comes out of a different background who wants to lease end caps or go into second gen space and just lease an existing building. And I think that's the fun of it, is that there isn't a cookie cutter aspect to it.
Yeah.
That we can look at an existing space and say, yeah, we can make that work. And, my team is out in the field every day thinking creatively about, okay, what's going to come to market? Who are those brands that might be faltering that, without being predatory, how can we help you out of your, negative situation and be a positive for us? But also having that flexibility to not put the franchisee into a position where they're going to have to overspend to build the restaurant. How can we help save? And I think that really comes down from the design and construction team. They really take that open mind to what's there, how do we use it, and then how do we make it a Dave's?
It's interesting. I think what we just are so accustomed to seeing in our world is a concept hit between 100 and 200 stores. And then typically whoever the founders were are well out of money at that point, and all their friends and family money network is tapped.
Yeah.
So they really have no choice but to grab a PE firm. They grab the PE firm, and it's a great relationship. But what happens 9 times out of 10 is the PE firm kind of moves the legacy CEO or co-founders out of the way, and they put in like the Wall Street CEO, right?
Sure.
Because this is the group that's going to take us public or whatever else it is. And it's just kind of interesting because right at that moment, everything goes to process driven. everything square peg, square hole. And so, I think what's fun about watching you guys is you're bigger at 300, just under 300 stores. That's phenomenal. And you're still doing deals that make sense, right?
Yeah.
Which is so awesome. It's awesome.
The deal itself has to make sense to the franchisee.
Right. Sure.
Right. And we're constantly having those conversations about, is it the right investment? Is it the right, unit economics at the rent level and the occupancy level? Those are struggles, with what market is in each individual trade area, what's somebody else paying, and does this make sense? Because at the end of the day, if the franchisee isn't profitable and isn't happy, they're not going to grow. And so we're really, there to help them make strong decisions. But I think because we're doing it through franchising and because we've picked those rockstar franchisees, that mindset is there, that they've done this before, they understand, and it's fueled us to that level where it's a support relationship and it's a partnership of growing together for the greater good of, we're going to crest 400 units this year. At the end of the day, we'll be, at or above 400 units by the end of the year. You can't get there without that partnership. You can't get there without that thought process of, we're in this together. We're all, wanting the greater good. We're wanting this brand to succeed, and continuing the legacy that the founders started with. We wanted, help our families. Franchisees, they've got their families. It's a family business, or it's a company, an LLC. They're growing. This is their livelihood. It's continuing that legacy that Dave, Armand, and Tommy started in the parking lot, and rolling it across the country.
As we kind of wrap up, one of the things that I like to ask everybody that comes on is, you've had a wonderful commercial real estate career. A lot of the people that listen to our podcast are new to commercial real estate.
Yeah.
And I find by sharing something that you maybe did wrong and then what you learned from it is usually a pretty helpful exercise.
Yeah. And
so what I like to ask everybody that comes on is tell us something that you did wrong in your career. And then more importantly, what did you learn from it?
I think nobody bats 1,000 in this industry. No. If somebody says that they've never made a mistake in commercial real estate, they're lying to you. I think a lot of it really comes down to being overeager to a deal. There are a couple deals early on where you're trying to hit a growth number. You're trying to hit that goal, and you maybe sacrifice demographics or site characteristics to get the deal. There are a few back in my day, where we did that, and you recognize it, maybe not at the moment, but as that store opens, you're like, yeah, we really probably missed, the density's not there, or we went too far down the road and talked ourselves into the deal. And I think that when you start to talk yourself into a deal, the deal probably doesn't make sense. If you really can't look at a site and say, okay, it ticks these boxes, it feels good, maybe you're not in the right deal. And I think that's tough for a lot of people, to learn to walk away, to learn when the deal just doesn't make sense anymore, and to back away, because everybody gets deal fever. Everybody gets excited about, okay, this is going to be the one. We're going to get this one done. But at a certain point in time, not everything is perfect, and sometimes you just have to be willing to accept, okay, I'm going to walk away. And maybe the deal comes back. Maybe the terms get better when everybody cools off and realizes that where we were at isn't going to make. But it takes a strong mental kind of fortitude to say, this isn't right. I'm going to walk away, because it's the right thing to do in the long run versus the short term of getting a deal.
I don't know why, but Kenny Rogers, the gambler, just started playing in my head. No one to hold him, no one to fold him. Know when
to walk away.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. That's good. That's great advice. Thank you for coming on the pod. We've enjoyed having you today. And if anybody out there that's listening, if you haven't been to Dave's, change it. Go to Dave's. What's your go-to order if you're there?
I'm going to do the alt menu. Take the Dave's Spice.
So this is off menu.
This is off menu.
So if you listen up here, everyone. All right, here we
Take
go.
the Dave's Spice. I like to put a one little dash of Reaper on my fries, one little dash of Reaper in my mac and cheese. I'm good to go. Put that with a vanilla shake, and that's the I'm not going to eat chicken menu, but still getting that Dave's flavor, that Dave's spice. Just doing it a little differently, because chicken's great, just can't eat it every day.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that, you know, I will tell you to this day, after working, let's see, like age 14 to 19 at Yoshi's, I still can't eat teriyaki sauce. It's like it's just like stuck in my
Yeah.
nostrils, the smell of teriyaki
The
sauce.
stickiness.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
One time I spilled a pot. Let me just tell you, it took hours to clean that up. It was a long day. Anyways, thanks for joining us on the Dirt Dog Pod. Go check out Dave's. You got your off menu, you know, item to go order and check out.